Hey, it's Pierre. And if you're diving into UI UX design, understanding the right terms is key for communicating your ideas and collaborating with others in your team. So today, I'm going to break down some of the most important and common UI UX terminologies that you'll come across. And if you're just starting out in UI UX design and want a clear roadmap to guide you, be sure to grab my free ebook in the description below. It's packed with actionable tips from my over decade of experience into this field, so feel free to check it out. And now, without further ado, let's jump right into the video. When it comes to the basics, UI components are essentially the building blocks of a user interface. So each and every component is going to serve a specific function to help users interact with the product smoothly. Now, these are going to be the components that most likely you're going to find in design systems, and you are going to essentially think about it from a modular perspective. And this is going to help create not only clarity, but also a level of consistency throughout projects and make the team work easier, especially as the team expand, and you're going to have a higher level of consistency by using these components. Now, first and foremost, the one which most of you are going to be familiar with is going to be the button. And of course, buttons are the building blocks of pretty much every app and a website, since there are interactive elements that are going to allow users to take actions such as submitting a form or navigating to another page. And these are referred most commonly also as call to actions in the UI UX design world. And the short is CTA. So you're going to hear the term call to action a lot, and it literally means a call to an action. So this is referred to buttons, but also to other type of interactive elements which are going to have an action as a result of the user using them. Now, the very next one is going to be badges, which are going to be strategic elements, and badges are essentially small UI elements that provide additional information about an item or are going to indicate a status. Now, they are often used to highlight new, updated, or important information, and they can have also a popover component associated to it, which essentially means that as you hover over a badge with the mouse, you're going to have some descriptive text happening above it in order to let the user know exactly what that badge is going to be about. Now, this is not common, but it's definitely one element to consider as they are going to be strategically used in some specific part of the UX projects. Now, the very next one is again a very common UX component, and that is the input field. And the input fields come in all sorts of different ways, and they are where users are going to input the data. So these fields can accept text, numbers, dates, and generally speaking, are the building blocks when it comes to gathering data within a UX flow. So these are going to definitely be some of the most used components in your journey. The very next one, which is tightly associated with input fields, is the drop-down menu. Now, drop-down menus are going to provide a list of options for the user to choose from in a compact space. And this is going to be especially useful when you need to add multiple and many options, generally speaking, to a segment of your UX flow, since these are going to be strategically used in those scenarios, while in other ones you can actually consider other type of interactions, which we're going to see in just a moment, such as the radio button. And the radio buttons are used to select one option from a group of choices. Now, the caveat is that once one option is selected, the other ones are deselected. So this is going to work in some specific scenarios where we want to allow for multiple selection and multiple options, but you're just going to stick with one and one only. However, if you want to go with another approach which enables users to select multiple items, you can go with checkboxes, since checkboxes are going to let the user select multiple options from a list. So these are going to be more strategic and in the sense that whenever we need more options, these are going to be probably one of the best choices in terms of UI components at your disposal. And on top of that, we also need to talk about the sliders, which are UI components that allow users to allow values within a range by dragging a handle. So this is going to be quite straightforward, and it's going to be helpful in a variety of situations where we need that granularity effect to make a specific selection. Other options in the UI components are going to be the toggle switches. And the toggles are essentially binary switches used to toggle between two states, so on and off or enabled, disabled. And this can be great alternatives, for example, to the radio buttons, since they do share a similarity in terms of its binary level of adjustment. So either one or the other, and the toggle switches are going to be other elements that are going to be great tools to consider. And last but not least, and we have many more to cover, are going to be the cards. And cards are essentially containers that group related information, typically within with an image, title, and description. So cards are going to come in all sorts of different ways, and there are these containing elements which help to create a sense of unitedness, but also create a sense of order when you're ordering multiple cards. For example, in an app, cards can be strategically used to move around components, but also to create that visual hierarchy, which is very much needed when we're dealing with a lot of information. So these are going to be definitely one of the most used elements together with some of the others that we're going to continue talking about some more UI components, starting from charts, which are going to be one of the most used components in your web app projects. So charts are pretty much self-explanatory. Most of you already are very familiar with this element, and they come in all sorts of different forms, but basically what they are graphical representation of data, and they're used to communicate trends, comparisons, and data analysis. So these are going to be in different shapes and forms, such as bar charts, pie charts, and all sorts of different other options available. Now, the very next one is going to be a UI component that you need to utilize strategically and only when it's absolutely needed, since it is going to slightly disrupt the user flow, and you need to use it in a strategic manner. And that is going to be modals, also referred to as pop-ups. Now, modals are essentially overlay elements that require user interaction before they can return to the main content. So this is perfect whenever you cannot justify redirecting a user to another page, but you still want them to perform an action or visualize a set of data strictly related to a call to action. The very next one is going to be tooltips. And the tooltips are incredibly useful as they are small pop-up messages that provide additional information when users hover over an element. So this is perfect in combination with an icon such as this question mark, because it's going to be the main call to action so that the user can understand that there is some sort of extra information related to an element or a component or a section of the page. And that is where they're going to be able to have and receive more information about that specific element that we're discussing. So this is going to be quite useful, and again, to be used strategically, and just be sure that it's going to be visible or that it's clear for the user that there is a tooltip. So either associate it to an icon or some sort of a visual is going to be quite a good practice to keep in mind. Now, the very next one is progress bars. Now, progress bars essentially visually represent the completion of an ongoing process, such as a file download or form submission. So this is going to be very important because it's going to notify the user that progress is being made. While if you don't have a progress bar in a UX flow, which requires this completion, or there is this flow of an ongoing process, the user might be wondering if the page is stuck, if the process is going towards the right end, and things of that nature. So this is going to be quite useful in order to uh, almost do user in the flow and let them know and be aware that there is an ongoing process which is smoothly coming to an end. Now we're going to mention also pagination, and pagination is going to be useful in the sense that in the options and the situations where we're going to have a lot of data and we need to separate pages or chunks of information. So think about, for example, tables with a lot of information. You might want to utilize pagination or some sort of other elements such as an infinite scroll in order to separate page content and things of that nature. So pagination essentially divides content into separate pages, usually displayed as numbered buttons or arrows. And it's not just for pages, but also for content within UI components. And of course, we cannot not mention icons, which are going to have videos, entire videos dedicated to them, because there's considerations when it comes to, for example, the responsiveness, the library, the icon library, which you select, which is incredibly important, especially at the start of the project. And essentially what they are small graphical elements that represent actions, objects, or content. And it's almost an art form in and of itself, both the creation of an icon as well as knowing when and what type of icon to utilize within a UX component or an experience. So this is going to be another one of those pillars that we're going to use all the time in our UI UX journey. Followed by card headers, and this is specific towards cards. So basically these are the top sections of a card, which is the element that we previously explored, that often contains titles or summaries of the content inside of the card. So these are going to be useful and important in order to notify the user about what that card is about, and if there's any important action which can be taken right at the top or at the bottom, considering a footer. So we could perhaps utilize a section footer instead of a card header. And the section footers are typically found at the bottom of sections or components and often contain supplementary information or actions. So again, this is going to be really dictated by the type of card that you create and how you're structuring the information and outlining the entire visual hierarchy. And the next item, which is going to become more and more utilized within UI UX applications in upcoming months and years, is the command menus. And the command menus are often used for performing quick actions in apps, providing a list of commands that users can execute with a click. So these are quite useful, as they can be prompted with a keyboard shortcut and enables users to search throughout the entire app and basically enable you to perform all sorts of different actions. And I wanted to finish this video with another key core element of any web app, which is metrics. And the metrics display key performance indicators, also known as KPIs, or other important data points, which are going to usually be in a concise format for the very most part. So that's that, and we're going to continue with the very next video. Now let's continue with the next one, which is going to be the slide out menu. Now, slide out menus are essentially hidden menus that slide in from the side of the screen. So these are typically used for navigation or actions and are found within web apps of all sorts. So example of slide out menus could be these ones right here. So you can see that they can be used for all sorts of different purposes, from filtering to offering different options to the users. And I would say these are menus and UX components that should be used cautiously, because you definitely do not want to hide features. However, these are going to be quite good whenever you can't justify redirecting a user to a new page, but you still want to give them the flexibility of viewing or selecting different options without having to go with the modal route. Now, the very next one is the inline call to actions. Now, inline call to actions are essentially buttons or links that are placed within content. So these are going to encourage users to take immediate action without leaving the page. So they're going to be helpful in order to give it that extra layer of attention and create still a component which is structured and it's quite visible, but without having to disrupt the UX flow in any major way. Now, another one which you're going to use all the time, especially on onboarding screens or form type of screens, are going to be progress steps. Now, progress steps essentially indicate the steps of a process, which is often used in multi-step form or workflow. So this can come in all sorts of different ways. In this example, we have a vertical progress step. However, they can be used also horizontally with ease. And we cannot talk about UI UX without mentioning activity feeds, since these are going to be some of the most popular elements, especially in social apps and in any app, really, especially when it comes to notifications and activities of the users. So activity feeds, as the name suggests, essentially display a chronological list of user actions or updates. And they are often used in social media or project management apps in that context. Also, another one which is definitely going to be a pillar in the UI UX scenario is going to be the tabs. Now, tabs are essentially navigation components that allow users to switch between different views or sections without leaving the page. And tables are going to be also another very important element, since they're used to organize data into rows and columns, often providing sorting, filtering, and searching functionalities. So this is definitely another one that we have to keep in mind that we're going to use all the time as UI UX designers, as well as alerts and notifications. So alerts and notifications, as the name suggests, are essentially used to inform users about updates, changes, or actions that require attention. Next one is going to be date pickers, and date pickers essentially allow users to select dates from a calendar interface. And there's all sorts of different structures that you can apply when it comes to date pickers, but one of the most common used one is the one that has become popular ever since being introduced by airlines websites, and that's going to be the format that you see right here. It can be more simple with just one single screen, all the way to having something more complex, as in this example, where we have all sorts of different filters and date range selectors, which can be on the bottom as we have here, or at the top. And this is going to enable to create more flexibility in the options that we're giving to the user. The next one is going to be calendars. Now, these are going to be usually found in project management softwares or personal applications. So this is going to be more of a specific use case scenario and not a common UX component to that degree. And another one which we have to mention is going to be the file upload. Now, these are going to be more common because file upload components essentially allow users to select and upload files from their device to a website or app. So this is definitely going to be a more common use case scenario.